Hi, welcome to City Talk. I'm Michelle Bono, the assistant to the city manager for the city of Tallahassee. On November 4th, citizens in Tallahassee and Leon County will go to the polls, and one of the most important items on that poll is going to be whether or not to extend the penny sales tax. Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about what that sales tax has done for this community in the past, and we're also going to talk about what would happen if the citizens decide to extend it. Let's start by getting a little background about the penny sales tax.
Hello, I'm Mayor John Marks. On November 4th, voters will choose whether to extend the local penny sales tax. Here are some facts to consider. We've had the penny sales tax since 1989, and it has been a game changer. Major road problems were addressed, such as Mahan Drive, Thomasville Road, Capitol Circle, and Orange Avenue. Plus, great amenities were added, like Cascades Park. The penny sales tax allows us to chart our own course locally by funding projects important to the citizens of Tallahassee and Leon County. If voters extend the penny sales tax, we'll be able to fund projects that add new sidewalks, reduce neighborhood flooding, and improve local roads. And all of these community improvements create jobs for local people. Most importantly, let your voice be heard by voting on November 4th.
Rick has a budding interest in flying. John was a pilot for 20 years. Terry enjoys caring for animals. Roger is a veterinarian. Patty loves cooking. Rachel owns a bakery. Bringing people together to share their experiences and realize their dreams is what 4-H is all about. Contact 4-H to find out how easy it is to become a 4-H volunteer. Florida's future begins with youth. Share the experience.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about the difference a penny makes, and specifically the penny local option sales tax. We have two outstanding elected leaders on our show today. It's my pleasure to welcome City Commissioner Andrew Gillum and our County Chair, Mary Ann Lindley. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Andrew, first, congratulations to you on your election as our new mayor, taking office in November.
That's right, November 21st, but who's counting?
I think we all are. And great kudos to our current mayor,
Yes.
John Marks, for the great service he's done in this community.
Absolutely.
Mary Ann, I think a lot of people know you not only from your service on the county commission, but your many years as the editorial editor of The Democrat, committed to serving both of you all. Thank you for being here.
We're glad to be here.
Now, we're going to count on you guys to give us some history. Let's talk about the sales tax. What is the purpose of having the penny sales tax or the 1% local options sales tax?
Well, I think the legislature sort of handed that off to local governments quite some time ago, and they said it's a good way for the citizens to decide what they want, how they want to be taxed, and for what purposes. So truly, there's a lot of meaning in the local option, and I think we are really lucky in our community that our citizens have voted not once, not twice, but hopefully this third time to impose a 1-cent tax on sales in order to build infrastructure projects that they want and need and turn out to love over the years. So I think that's, it's been a great sort of self-starting project that we've had for many years.
The only thing I'd add to what Mary Ann said is, people generally don't like taxing. Certainly don't like taxing themselves. And so the fact that this community has repeatedly said that they're willing to step up and pay for the sorts of changes and improvements in our community that they want to see says a whole bunch about the type of people who live here in this community, and I think was part of the brilliance of the legislature in creating a local option for paying for these kinds of improvements.
Well, let's talk about those improvements, because I've had people say to me, do you remember back when Thomasville Road was 2 lanes? And
No.
I'm like, Mary Ann, do you remember that?
Mary Ann remembers, yes. Yes, I remember writing about when Thomasville Road was contemplated to be widened, and the Department of Transportation was doing that, and it was going to be widened to a simple 4-lane road, really more like Tennessee Street would be. And the newspaper actually went to bat to try to get it to be created as more of a boulevard with medians, with landscaping. And it's turned out to be a beautiful street that has residences all up and down it. I mean, it's really, you know, a beautiful part of our city, a great entryway. But
how about other roads? Let's talk about what other kinds of roads, because people really think about this as being a road, something that very predominantly has built roads. What else has it done?
Well, it's significant, obviously, to road construction, but there's so many other elements to the sales tax. But on the roads front, I mean, but for having the resources, a capital circle that includes such wide lanes, bike lanes, trail opportunities, and the ability for future expansion. If we had to rely exclusively on our local ad valorem taxes, we probably would never be able to design a road so beautiful, so attractive to meet not only today's capacity needs, but the future capacity needs as the city continues to grow.
Well, you look at Blairstone, you look at Orange Avenue. I mean, there's not a major road in this community that penny sales tax hasn't made a big difference.
Yeah,
on.
Blairstone, I tell you, what a challenge that was for the elected leadership.
I was here for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know about the 2-lane, buggy trail on Thomasville, but the Blairstone battle that now has resulted in people who traverse that road, seamlessly today, and just think of the vistas that you actually get along that roadway. At every segment of that roadway. I never thought I'd speak so romantically about a street, but it really was well done.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you hear people want to go on Blairstone Road. They want to drive there just because they love driving there.
I do that.
I think it's the NASCAR in all of us, But it's
keep
such
the speed
a
down.
Yeah, right.
Got it. You had the,
Yeah, we have to pay attention to that. But other things too, reducing flooding, sidewalks. I mean, when people talk to you about the importance, what are the things you want them to know about why the sales tax has been important in the past?
I can say one thing about that. The last one, the one that we're now operating under, it was really the most beautiful holistic plan I've ever seen. It was a way of differing opinions in the community, people who had strong opinions coming together to make sure every infrastructure project addressed environmental and flooding concerns in particular, that they also, all the projects would include a recreational element, whether connectivity, bikeways, or sidewalks. And then the third was transportation. So when you built a road, you had environmental considerations and recreation considerations. And so everything was this wonderful package that would be hard for anyone to complain about, because it had all the elements that made for a beautiful city and beautiful infrastructure that also caused businesses to want to locate here and for people to stay here in a beautiful city.
Totally agree.
Well, and you talk about the citizen role, Commissioner. When you started about the citizens get to decide, they get to do more than just say we'll vote for it. They've been part of the plan. Tell us a little bit about how citizens been involved.
I tell you, the citizen input, and again, over the maturity of sales tax from the last one, and certainly the reauthorization again on this one, has been chock full of volunteer involvement, support over a year's work. I know you will talk with this year's past chairman, Steve Evans, and the extremely talented group of citizens who, if we had to pay for their time, we could not afford them. And that's quite literal. When you think of the breadth and span of experiences that they represent throughout this community. And so you don't just have one part of our city's interests represented there. You have a cross-section of interests, from environmental to business to human service and social service elements of our city, government, non-government entities, big and small business. Really, I think the best example of the kind of community involvement and what can be yielded from that process. I think the reason why it was less contentious this time is because we really covered all bases. There probably wasn't a perspective left absent. And the whole process.
One of the things too that people talk about is when we talk about having to pay taxes, again, nobody likes to pay them. We all kind of like when other people contribute. And let's talk about that for just a minute too, because a good percentage of this sales tax isn't paid by people who live here.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think the calculations are between 20 and 30% of the sales in this community are their purchases by people who are coming in to visit, students also, and so, you know, it's not just the local community that's footing the bill. That's fair, of course, because the people who come in to visit are also using the roads and the parks, and they're enjoying the community too. But it does take the burden off to some extent. And also our community, we don't have a lot of property taxes in our community because just about 50% of the property here is state, university, or churches, so they're off the tax rolls. So we really rely on sales as a source of revenue for the infrastructure and projects that the community wants.
Yeah. I think fair is just a great point too. It helps ensure that everybody pays kind of their fair share of it,
and that they get to reap the benefits of it, right? So
Absolutely.
we spent a good bit of time talking about the road aspect, but you know, Cascades is probably one of the more celebrated components, but unstated is the infrastructure that most of us won't see that makes that park function the way that it's supposed to. We had a young man who came to the City Commission meeting a couple of weeks ago who talked about, came up to thank the City Commission for the Franklin Boulevard fix.
Absolutely.
And the fact that students from Leon who would have to rush out of class to move their cars at the risk of life, and we have had loss of life.
Flooding there, yes.
Due to flooding. Cascades Park, Franklin Boulevard, the stormwater improvements there absolutely work, and that's something, you know, not as much celebrated, but is a total asset and a success story from this initiative.
One of the things I think that reminds me of is that you kind of have to know where we've been to know how good it is now, because there are people who are, my family, my parents have moved here recently, they don't remember Franklin Boulevard flooding. And if you've lived here for, you know, a decade or two, you know that was a major problem. And today it's beautiful. And like you said, that Cascades Park is the greatest place to go visit and spend time. And people don't know that it's really designed for flooding, not just to be a great park.
Amenity,
So, last question I have for you all. You know, we're very careful about this in government because government can't advocate for a sales tax. Our job, and that's what we want to do with this show, is talk about what's it done, what do we propose that it will do in the future. But as elected leaders, you all can voice your opinion. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about this sales tax. And when people say to you, what do you think? How do you all respond?
I have no hesitancy to support it completely. I've seen how well it's worked in the past, and honestly I get a lot of confidence in our community, even as an elected official now, that people do have a willingness to pay for the services and the necessities, the public safety, the things we all need and enjoy, and that add to our community. I think people are willing to support that. I don't feel like it's a risk at all. To say, yes, this is part of our community, and I am so proud of our citizens for having, you know, stepped up and said, we want to say. I mean, I don't know how it would be, you know, if the City Commission and the County Commission just from out of the blue said, let's just raise this sales tax a penny and just see how that flies. I mean, I don't think we have the authority to do that, by the way, but say we did. But this feeling that the community is saying, yeah, we're for that. You know,
and
we've got it.
Led. And how about you, Commissioner?
Well, I'll say simply, I'm 110% in support of passage of this initiative. It is so defining to who Tallahassee is and what we will become. I think we have turned a major corner, and we have decided who we want to be when we grow up. And this is just the beginning, and this tax is what's going to help get us there.
Okay. Thank you both for sharing your time and your opinions. To our viewers, we always want to say, mark your calendar now. Be sure you vote on November the 4th. Now, when we come back, we're going to find out more about what the sales tax would do if it were extended and the kinds of projects that it would have in this community and how it would impact you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sick? Yeah, fever, aches, pains, but I never take sick days.
You know, your part is covered here. We got it covered. If you want to go.
5 years, no sick days.
Welcome aboard.
Evacuation? Now?
Please.
Jeff, this is you, isn't it?
No. Sure, I love it when my employees are dedicated and they want to come to work. But you got to draw the line.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about the penny sales tax and the vote that will become before each of you watching this show on November the 4th when you decide whether or not to extend that sales tax for improvements in our community. Now, we have two experts here. I have to say, I'm going to pay, I think, a penny for your thoughts. Okay, yeah. Wayne Tedder, who is the Director of PLACE, which oversees Blueprint 2000 and our planning department, and Mr. Steve Evans, who we almost have put onto the city and county payroll because he has spent the last 2 years leading a citizen group involved in the sales tax.
Wonderful 2 years, you bet.
Thank you both for being on our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Wayne, let's start just a little bit and talk about what is Blueprint 2000. I'm sure some people that have been here a while know about that. What is Blueprint and what is your role?
Well, Blueprint 2000 is a sales tax initiative that was created by citizens in our community at a time when our community was growing very strongly. There were concerns about growing too fast, having impacts to our environment, and a group of citizens sat down and said, you know what? And these were citizens that came from the environmental community and from the business community and said, we realize Tallahassee is going to grow, but let's make sure it grows the right way. So they developed a list of projects holistically, looking at stormwater as they build infrastructure projects such as roadways, and delivered those projects to our city and county commissioners who said, you know, these are good things for our community. It was put on the ballot, and over 63% of our citizens throughout Leon County voted to adopt a 1-cent sales tax or continue one that was in place at the time to make sure these projects move forward in our community.
And you have been one of the staff people making sure those projects get done.
Yes, and I have enjoyed every bit of the opportunity to make a difference in our community with the projects that we have presented to our community.
So when does the current sales tax that we have right now expire?
The current sales tax ends in December of 2019.
Okay.
Even though it's some time away, we still have a lot of infrastructure projects that are necessary for our community, and having this vote early on make sure that some of those projects move forward sooner than later for our community.
Okay. Now, Steve, I know that you were asked to serve on a citizen committee by the Leon County.
I was.
And tell us a little bit about what in the world were you thinking when you agreed to give 2 years of your life to helping this, and tell us a little bit about who else served with you.
Sure, you bet. It was a great experience. First, I would start by saying nobody realized they'd be working for 2 years on this. This is one of those invitations to just show up for a couple of meetings and help us through it. So, but every one of us were absolutely delighted to. It was interesting. There were 18 of us, and they truly represented a cross section of this community that I don't think any of us could have ever put together. So, if I were to give my hat, it would be to the city and the county commission because they're the ones that put this together.
Okay.
But it was actually over 2.5 years, not 2 years. But for 2.5 years, we came, as we all talked about this, we came into this, a lot of us not knowing each other and certainly not knowing each other as well as we ultimately would. We came out of this after 2.5 years with a tremendous amount of pride in this community, a tremendous amount of knowledge about the challenges that are facing this community. And then having had the honor of working through the opportunity of addressing what some of these opportunities will be over the next 2.5 or the next 20 years, excuse me.
Well, and you came out with a list of projects, and I know, Wayne, you were in a lot of these meetings and a lot of the discussion. So we had a citizen group that got tremendous input. Talk about how did you whittle this down, and what were you looking at? How would you decide what would be a good project to fund?
Well, it was a fascinating process. So I give a lot of credit to the processes that occurred beforehand because we had a great board to start with. And but we came together, and first thing we had to do is understand, which Wayne and the county commission and the city commission helped us for several months, just understand the issues that were facing the city and the county, what the demographics were, how they were proposed to change over the next 15 or 20 years, the issues that out there that were being addressed, but there was not enough money out there to address them. So we had to incorporate all of that, and that took 3 to 4 months to really appreciate and understand the dynamics of what it was we were going to have to deal with before we even got to the projects.
Okay.
After that, then we started with the number of projects that were on the last sales tax extension go around that were not funded.
Because they ran out of money.
Ran out of money, as simple as that. And we took all of those, and then we listened to every meeting we had. There was community input. So we start off every meeting by inviting citizens from the community. And we had tremendous input from the community every meeting. And that was impressive in itself. If any of us came away with any appreciation, it was the It was appreciation of the expertise, not just on the committee, but the tremendous depth and breadth of expertise across this community, who came to us to share with us critical needs, everything from the science of water and water quality to specific needs within neighborhood associations, FAMU, FSU, TCC, the arts. It really was a wonderful opportunity for us to learn and begin to appreciate.
And Michelle, there were 73 projects that were brought forward to this committee to review that totaled over $2 billion worth of projects.
That's $2 billion, isn't it?
$2 billion.
B. That's right.
Yes, and it was a far greater value of projects that our community said we want for Tallahassee and Leon County, and this committee had to whittle the project list down to something that is affordable for this next round of sales tax.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what those things are, because even as we talk about the earlier one, I know we had projects that were kind of prioritized. With the money we plan to get, we're going to get these, and if we have some more, we're going to get these. There were some that the money wasn't there to pay for all of those, that got considered again. With the final list that's come out, and I do want to mention that we have a website that people can also go to get that information, but tell us just a little bit about what kinds of things and what kind of general areas do they represent?
Well, one of the things that the committee had made it very prominent in their discussion was to have a diversity throughout our community where these projects are placed, so that everyone experiences some benefit from the projects. And they range from gateways in our community. Take, for instance, Tennessee Street from I-10 down to Capitol Circle. That was a gateway project that was done with the current sales tax. So they started looking at the other gateways into our community. So we have North Monroe, we have Spring Hill Road, we have Pensacola Street. Those major gateways that people are coming into our community and experiencing Tallahassee for the first time or for many times.
Some of them need some work.
Some of them need a lot of work, and these projects will go a long ways to making sure that those gateway projects look as good as the gateway on Tennessee Street.
Okay, what's some other examples?
Well, that was one example. I mean, and under gateways, one of the real exciting ones is the one from the airport.
Right.
Coming in from the airport, coming into the stadium up to Gaines Street. And the beauty of all of these projects, which I think was the lesson learned from the last set of projects, was it's not just beautification, it's functionality. And the ability to address everything from functionality to how we can address the ecosystem to beautification. It's a wonderful philosophy to follow through, and we're seeing the evidence of that from the last one. That'll be threaded throughout every one of these projects. I think the voters will be incredibly impressed with what's going to be happening.
Okay.
But you start with the airport, you start with water quality was a critical issue. Not that you get excited about that, but when you begin to appreciate the critical nature of our growth pattern over the next 20 years and how important that is to address the areas where the growth is probably going to occur, that right now it's not prepared to accept that growth, you begin to appreciate how important this is and the impact it's going to have on future generations if we don't start addressing it now.
Well, and even some parts relate to creating more good jobs in this community. And I think that that's something people think, oh, I wasn't thinking about that. It's also about jobs and opportunities.
Absolutely. Just from our experience with the current sales tax, we've had a number of projects that have really provided a significant amount of jobs for our construction industry. And during the hardest times of our country, during the recession, we moved a lot of people and provided jobs for people with these construction projects.
Right.
That makes great sense. Just in the last few minutes we have, any other projects you really want to kind of highlight?
Well, we just for the park lovers, one of the largest parks that is on this initiative is on Lake Lafayette. It connects about 7,000 acres of green space right now and creates a continuous trail that at the end of the day would be an 18-mile-long trail system.
Wow.
So folks who come to this community who do regional biking, and it's a big deal for our community.
And we have lots of people that live here that bike all the time on those trails.
It's an incredible project. If you love nature, you love protecting our environment, and just getting outdoors, that's an excellent project.
If I could add one thing to that, Michelle, it's to bank off of what Wayne just said. One of the exciting parts of this entire set of proposals is going to be the whole issue of connectivity. We've over the years we've built a tremendous network of parks, trails.
Right.
What we're doing in this one, though, is connecting them all.
That sounds wonderful.
And really protecting the urban core as opposed to allowing isolated parts of the community to stand alone.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you both. We could talk about this literally for hours, but on today's show, I just want to be sure that I tell you how much we appreciate the time you've given. Those committees, the thousands of people that have been involved in this. Wayne, your many years of good leadership and stewardship, we appreciate it. So thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Now, to our community, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, we want to leave you with a video that gives you some of the images about how it used to be, how it is now, and how it will be in the future. So enjoy this video. Be sure you go to the website and be sure you vote on November the 4th. Thanks for watching this edition of City Talk.
Leon County and Tallahassee are great places to live. We love our greenways and lakes, and we have a quality of life that is unlike anywhere else in Florida. But it wasn't always that way. Decades ago, we struggled to keep up with our growing population.
Thomasville Road was a mess. It took me 30 minutes to get to work.
East Mahan, I do everything I can to avoid that.
You couldn't safely walk down Orange Avenue.
Capitol Circle was gridlocked most of the time.
And Blairstone Road? It didn't even exist.
The very concept of the penny sales tax goes back to 1989. County and city staff began gathering citizen input on our growing problems. The result was a local referendum in which voters authorized the penny tax to fund roads and address public safety needs. 10 years later, community leaders again came together as the Economic and Environmental Consensus Committee. Their goal was to extend the work of the tax and include a broader mission. The extension would not only improve and expand our local roads, but also reduce traffic congestion, control flooding, and build parks and green spaces.
Residents from all over Leon County, from all walks of life, came together to put this idea on the ballot.
In the end, it reflected the needs of a growing community, and it was left up to the voters whether to pass the penny sales tax or not. In 2000, they again said yes.
And the pennies raised by the sales tax have led to many different projects across our community. With every dollar spent for improvements right here in our community, workers rebuilt Capitol Circle Southeast, expanded Blairstone Road, and widened Orange Avenue, East Mahan, Tharp Street, and Thomasville Road. Projects were designed to reduce neighborhood flooding, expand green spaces, build new parks, and meet the needs of our growing community. With the penny sales tax extension now set to expire, citizens again came together in town hall meetings and public hearings. The Sales Tax Committee, along with our elected officials, spent thousands of hours hearing from the public, reviewing blueprints and diagrams, and selecting the next round of projects. And hundreds of hours from citizen volunteers were dedicated to creating the project list. The new plan is to continue improving local roads, build sidewalks to schools, relieve congestion at intersections, protect our natural resources, improve parks, and create and promote jobs right here. These projects will receive state and federal matching dollars while investing in local jobs. If extended, the penny sales tax would continue with citizen oversight and annual audits, all in public view. After all, this is your penny, and these are your projects.
For this renewal, the citizen engagement has been greater than anything this community has ever seen.
We've been putting that penny to good use for nearly 25 years.
So now it's time for voters to choose whether or not to extend the penny sales tax. In November, Leon County voters will review the work done by the Citizens Committee and the County and City Commissions. The rest is up to you, the citizen.
Thank you.